We're back in the seat today and we're back talking about Wrexham AFC transfer news. Today we're going to be looking at the situation in the number one spot for Wrexham Football Club going into the 26-27 season. We've got another twist in the tale regarding goalkeeper Arthur Okonkwo and what his future at the club looks like. As well, we're going to be looking at his potential replacement who could be on his way up to North Wales in the next coming weeks. We're also going to be looking at updates regarding a right wing back that Wrexham are heavily interested in and a midfielder that we're firmly in the race to sign. So before we get going in today's video, if you would like to see more Wrexham AFC content, make sure to drop a like, make sure to get down there as well and click the red subscribe button. We're on the road to 29,000 subscribers. It's absolutely free to do so if you would like to keep up to date with general news and general videos regarding Wrexham. This is your hub for that. I do apologise as well for there not being much content on the channel recently, but in all honesty, there's been absolutely no news on the Wrexham front. So yeah, I can only apologise for that as well. If I do look a bit sunburned, you could probably see it here. It's been 33 degrees in the UK, which for my Americans out there is probably another day in the USA. So yeah, without further ado, let's get looking first on that goalkeeping situation. And we're starting the video off with Arthur Okonkwo. Now, reports are claiming that recently relegated to League One Leicester City are pushing for a move to sign Arthur Okonkwo. The Foxes could buy the Nigerian international on a permanent deal, but are also open to signing him on a loan deal as they look to go back up to the Championship at the first time of asking. Now, if I'm going to give my raw and honest first thoughts on this, I think it's clear now to all the Wrexham fans out there, Phil Parkinson isn't 100% comfortable with Arthur Okonkwo being our number one going into next season in the Championship, and he still feels like there's some weaknesses in that number one spot, which will no doubtedly spark debate and division amongst the Wrexham fan base, because there's a lot of people out there that absolutely love Arthur Okonkwo, love his shot stopping, his presence in goal, but there'll be people out there that also say his distribution's not great, his commanding inside the box isn't great. So there is going to be a lot of debate if Arthur Okonkwo does stay at Wrexham or if he does leave. Now, I think if you are looking at the situation with Arthur Okonkwo, I think it does stem from kind of the final stretch of the Championship season last year. Now, I definitely do think we got some potential early signs that Okonkwo was either going to be dropped and go into the number two next season in the Championship, or was going to leave Wrexham Football Club in the summer of 2026, because you are looking at sort of that final 5 or 6 games. It all stemmed from that 5-1 defeat at home to Southampton, and you can't fully blame Arthur Okonkwo for that. I think there were some absolutely fantastic goals, but on the other hand, it was a very poor defensive display from Wrexham. And you look at the defensive displays over the course of the season, they do start with the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper is such a big part of the defence in terms of his communication and the trust that the defenders do have in the goalkeeper. You then look at the following game on the Saturday away at Birmingham City, where there was a corner into the box. Arthur was rooted to his line, didn't come out for it, and you could sort of say that was a mistake. Followed up a week later at home to Stoke City, Danny Ward comes into the starting 11 for Arthur Okonkwo, and Danny Ward, a goalkeeper who has not really played much football the past 3 or 4 years and hadn't really played much for Wrexham, obviously due to that injury away at Millwall. His first game in 231 days. Now, for Arthur Okonkwo, who had played such a big part over the course of the Championship season, to be dropped in such a final big stretch of the season for Danny Ward, who has not played much football, I think was a big kick in the teeth for him. And I think we should have known at that time that Parky wasn't 100% comfortable in the Nigerian. My opinions on this whole situation for Arthur Okonkwo now, I think he's a brilliant goalkeeper and I don't think we should be letting him go. But if you're looking at Phil Parkinson's point of view and the club's point of view from a financial gain, I just don't see why we should be letting Arthur Okonkwo go out on loan in the upcoming season, because you're looking at Okonkwo's situation. He's out of contract next summer in 2027. If we loan him out to Leicester City and he has sort of a mediocre season there, he's not going to come back to Wrexham, and Wrexham are unlikely to offer him a new contract, which will result in us losing him on a free transfer, opposed to if we're going to sell him this summer, you could probably get a couple of £1 million for Arthur Okonkwo. I'm not saying Leicester City would pay that, but I'm sure there's a whole host of other teams that would like to sign him, and I just don't see how it makes any sense to let him go out on loan and be out of contract next summer, opposed to possibly selling him. If you do want to get rid of him, you should be looking at selling him, not loaning him out. And also, I don't see the gain of loaning him out to a League One side. Yes, Leicester City are going to be the biggest club in that league by a mile and are probably going to go back up at the first time of asking, but we've seen him in League One. We know his abilities, we know his attributes that he can bring to a team in League One. We saw him be the goalkeeper for our promotion season season up to the Championship. We've seen him at that level. We want to see him at a Championship team. If Wrexham are looking to offload him, try and get him a Championship loan move. Try and get him a move where he can prove himself to Phil Parkinson another time in the Championship, that he can come back to Wrexham and be our number one goalkeeper. You're looking at the likes of Portsmouth, Stoke City, just those teams. See if one of those are interested in signing Arthur Okonkwo and can guarantee him a lot of game time over the course of the season, because in my opinion, I don't see loaning him out to League One doing him any favours at all. And I think just on the whole situation for Arthur Okonkwo from Wrexham, I think Phil Parkinson pretty much feels the way how we as the fans feel. He's an excellent shot stopper and has developed really well since signing for the club in September of 2023. But I just think overall for Okonkwo's game, he could command his box a bit better. We've seen how the defence tightened up as well with Danny Ward's communication in those final 4 games of the season when he did return in goal. I think as well for Arthur, his decision making at times does slightly let him down and stops him from being, a top end Championship keeper that has Premier League interest. I think if he can get better at that communication, that distribution, that commandment in goal, then I think he could go up another level. Whether that's down to him, whether that's down to bringing a new goalkeeper coach in, we really don't know. But I think overall on the Okonkwo situation, you can't knock the fact that he's a very good goalkeeper, and in my opinion, we shouldn't be letting him go. But if we need to strengthen in that number one spot in order to go from here just finishing outside the playoffs to here possibly getting promoted to the Premier League, let's let Phil Parkinson do what's right for the team. And if we are looking at his potential replacement, Anthony Patterson, now it looks as if Phil Parkinson is set on who he wants to bring in that number one spot if Okonkwo does leave Wrexham in the summer, and it's someone we've talked about on the channel before. It's Anthony Patterson, like I've just said, of Premier League side Sunderland. Alan Nixon has reported that Wrexham are looking to bring the 26-year-old goalkeeper in on loan, which is interesting because from all the reports we'd heard from Sky Sports, etc., all those big outlets have said that Sunderland had slapped an £8 to £10 million price tag on Patterson, but it looks as if Wrexham are looking to bring him in on a season-long loan. Fellow Championship rivals Millwall are pushing to bring him in for a second loan spell, so it does look as if Wrexham aren't prepared to pay that £10 million asking price for the shot stopper. Now, if we are looking at Anthony Patterson as a goalkeeper, he's one that has so much experience for a 26-year-old in the Championship. You couldn't really ask for much more. He's at the prime years of his career and he's played so many games in the Championship, 150 plus, securing promotion to the Premier League in the 24-25 season where he played all but one game in the league. So he knows what it takes to get out of this division, and I think if you're looking at attributes and what he could bring to the team, like Arthur Okonkwo, he's a great shot stopper. I think what you would get from Patterson that you don't get in Okonkwo is more comfortability from the likes of crosses, from free kicks, from corners and inside the box. I think you'd feel Anthony Patterson's presence more than what you would with Arthur Okonkwo in goal. And I think one thing for Phil Parkinson, he'll look at these situations, he'll look at the past that they have both had in the Championship. The fact that Anthony Patterson has been successful at this level before and has maintained his spot in that Sunderland goal for the past 3 or 4 years, I think is a big reason why he could be looking to bring him in to replace Okonkwo. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know absolutely everything about Anthony Patterson as a goalkeeper, but being a general EFL fan, I watched the playoff semi-finals against Coventry, you watch the playoff final, and you look at the spells he has had at Millwall, especially towards the back end of the season, 6 clean sheets in 14 games. He's clearly going to be a good asset for whoever does get him, and it looks as if he is going to return to the Championship, and I'd more than happily have him in this Wrexham side. But the one thing that I think overall is that we don't make a decision that we come to regret in terms of letting Arthur Okonkwo go in the summer transfer window. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Would you keep Arthur Okonkwo and would you bring Anthony Patterson in, or would you try and get maybe Okonkwo to push Anthony Patterson in that number one spot? Because it is going to be interesting. I think if you're going to bring a goalkeeper in, you're going to let someone go. Can I see Burton leaving? I think he's quite comfortable in that number 3 spot. Do I see Danny Ward leaving after a season? I don't. So I think it is going to be a battle between what happens with Okonkwo, whether he stays and proves himself, or whether we get a replacement in like Anthony Patterson and Okonkwo leaves elsewhere. So your thoughts are more than welcome in the comment section down below. It's definitely one topic to keep your eye out on for. Looking at a right wing back that could come in to fill the void of Issa Kabore, and it's Terry Devlin. Again, another name we've talked about on the channel before. According to Portsmouth reports, Wrexham still remain interested in Portsmouth's player of the season, Terry Devlin, who, like I just said, said, would come into that right wing back spot and would hopefully fill the boots of Issa Kabori, who has returned to Manchester City. Now, from Portsmouth's end, they haven't received an official bid from Wrexham, but I think it's sort of a case of sooner rather than later until Wrexham put an official bid in for the Northern Irishman. Now, I voiced my opinion many a times on Devlin on the channel before. It doesn't take a lot to see the player he is. You look at Portsmouth's fans' opinions on him, they absolutely love him. They say he's a future captain. He's shown some incredible attributes of that of a higher level, especially him developing on the international stage as well. And my views on him will remain the same whether Wrexham sign him or not. I think he could be a really good pickup for most teams in the Championship, especially for the price tag that I think clubs are going to go in and pay for him, and I think the price tag that Portsmouth do hold him at. Of course, they want the best possible price, but you look at a club like Portsmouth, they're not going to go out there and say £10 million. They're not going to have the ability to do that. If they receive an offer of 3.5, 4 million, maybe 4.5 million, they're going to accept it for Terry Devlin because they're a club that operates off player sales, and I think he could, like I said, be a very good pickup for a Championship side at a very good price compared to what you would pay for a wing back in this day and age. I think as well, if you're looking at Terry Devlin, I've talked about him loads on the channel before, so if you do like to see my full scout report on him, make sure to go and find the video on the channel. But I think he's one that carries those attributes that we would be crying out for next season in the Championship if we do want to go up another level. I think he does have the ability. I think if he was to join a setup where he's in a higher quality environment, he would adapt so well, and I think Wrexham should be all over Devlin in the coming weeks to the transfer window. And finishing off the video with Ethan Galbraith. Now, it seems like this video is just talking about names that I've talked on the channel before, but I think the race for these players is heating up even further now that we're coming closer to the start of pre-season. Now, the saga surrounding the Northern Irishman continues as he's reportedly turned down an official contract offer from Swansea City, but the twist is Stoke City, who finished 17th in the Championship last year, are lining up an ambitious move for him, which I think is absolutely crazy. And there's another twist in this. Wrexham is set to rival whatever Stoke City bid and offer Ethan Galbraith in terms of a transfer fee and in terms of wages. So I think it's going to be a race for the top target for Phil Parkinson, whether he opts for that move for an established Championship side who have been in this league for 10 plus years, or you test yourself in a club that's been in the Championship for the first time of asking and has shown what we're all about. And I think no disrespect to Stoke City, but they're an amazing club, they're a well-run club, they're, you know, a historic club in the Premier League and the Championship, but I think it would be a very sideways move for him, going from 11th place to 17th place. Yes, they might be looking to go that one step further this season, but you look at the past 10 years they spent in the Championship, they're not really an ambitious side. But if you look at Wrexham's point of view, we're investing in this squad. What's going off the field is so exciting, and on the field you could say we're a very small club for this level, but if you're coming into a team that has belief, the fans, the manager Phil Parkinson is looking to build a squad and make history by taking us up to the Premier League, I don't see why would pick Stoke City over Wrexham. And that's an incredible sentence to say, and I'm not getting my ego, I'm not being cocky in that way, but you look at the history in the Championship, Wrexham have been in there for 1 year and have automatically finished probably above Stoke City of what they've finished in the past 6 or 7 seasons they've spent here. So I don't see why would go to Stoke City. He's an incredible footballer, and I think it's one that we'll just have to wait and see to see how it pans out. So that is it for today's video. If you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like. Let's go for 350 likes on today's video. Subscribe, do all that good stuff, because there's plenty of content coming your way. We're just 2 weeks away from the start of pre-season, so it's going to get interesting. There's going to be plenty of content coming from our tours over in Poland, Helsinki, and of course the USA. So keep an eye out for that, turn the notification bell on, and I'll see you in another video. Take care, guys. Up the Championship Reds.